Well, everybody by now must be pea green with envy with what's going on down in southeast Virginia and northeastern North Carolina, with moderate to heavy snow falling there. Joe Rayo is going to take you on a radar tour so you can see the snow there, but because you can't see any snow out your own window. We had a slew of record lows this morning across the plains and points further south. Another night of extreme cold weather warnings, and they even had lake effect snow in Dallas today. Okay,
Ah,
that should
ah.
tell you. That right there tells you how messed up the weather world is these days. We will, of course, cover it all tonight on the Joe and Joe Weather Show podcast, which you can support if you choose by doing your Amazon shopping using our referral link pinned to the top of the chat board or on the description to this podcast. Just go click on the link, search for your stuff, you buy it. Amazon sends us a little bit of coin for sending you there. It doesn't cost you one dime out of your own pocket. It's an easy, simple way to support the Joe and Joe Weather Show podcast. And by the way, it also keeps commercials down. The show is virtually commercial free, except for that little announcement that I do at the very, very top of the show. Um, yeah, I mean, did so much weird stuff, Joe. I was looking this morning. Uh, the wind chills up in the Dakotas, they had temperatures of minus 35, minus 30, wind chills at minus 50. Okay. And then somebody sent me a YouTube link, which I don't have. Actually, even if I do have it, but I'm not going to show it because you have to look close because it was shot at night. It was shot before sunrise, but you can see that there was snow falling. There are some lakes around that area in North Texas, nearby Dallas and Fort Worth. And I do have Bill Goodman sent me a shot of the radar, which was pretty interesting. Oh, here it is. And when you look at it, it has the look. I'm going to bring that up, Joe. But this is what a radar shot. And I was looking on the wide radar, and you could see there were specks there, right to the south of Dallas Fort Worth. And here's what it looks like. Whoops. And there you go. Uh, I mean, there is nothing else on the radar except what's surrounded here. And if you notice, it has that look of lake effect where you get those streamers that run north south. I mean, that's just crazy. Of course, the temperature was 15, and this is the sort of thing that happens when you have a real, genuine, bitter cold Arctic air mass that comes down and goes down to some place where it's not supposed to be. But just a crazy day. I had snow this morning. I had snow. I was on this.
I know that I know the name of the town I saw on the radar. I know the name of the town is Waco, but you might say that at least for today, the weather down there was wacko.
Wacko. Yes.
Wacko and Waco.
I had this morning at about 7 o'clock it started. Um, big big flakes the size of quarters. We had a quick coating and then it turned to rain. Now on the north side of town, they had an inch or two, and some of the nearby uh, areas here in neighboring counties bordering North Carolina and Tennessee had a good solid inch or two of snow this morning. So everybody was happy. The kids got a snow day. It was pretty for a brief moment because then it turned to changed to rain and it went up to 40 degrees and everything melted anyway. So now we're back to I'm 36. No, 33. So it's 33 now. And there might be a little bit of flurry activity going by in the next couple of hours as the colder air comes rushing in.
Just
Uh,
to just to answer for a moment on the chat board, Ruben from Mohawk Valley says, "I wonder if Mr. Joe Rayo can address my maple syrup question from yesterday." First of all, A, I didn't see the maple syrup question, and B, the only thing I know about maple syrup is that Renata C refuses to buy the maple syrup I always want for my pancakes and waffles, Mrs. Butterworth's. She she refuses to get that type of beer. She'll
Right,
get
because it
other
has
types of
fake
beer.
because it has fake butter in it.
Right. Well, whatever. So that's. I'm sorry I couldn't help you there, Ruben, but that's the only thing I really know about. Oh, and by the way, the sap only runs every
Yeah,
2 years.
the sap runs every
Within
exactly.
6 years.
Okay, so Mr. Rayo is going to be doing radars, and I will be uh, interrupting him with surface observations as we take a look at what's going on down on in Southeast Virginia and in Eastern North Carolina. Are you ready
I'd
to?
love to do that as long as you turn the sharing on.
Yes, I need to do that. By the way,
Yes.
welcome to everybody on the chat board tonight to the Joe and Joe Weather Show podcast, and those of you lurking in the background. Big hellos to you. Closing in on 15,000 subscribers. I think I only need 13 more. So if you haven't subscribed, subscribe and turn your notifications on so you don't miss us. Sunday through Thursday at 7:35 p.m. Fridays and Saturdays are off days unless there's a storm around. If we add a show, we let you know. And if you like the show, of course, by all means, hit the like button. Right now, Joe, Wallops Island, 22, moderate snow there. Uh, Heavy snow in Richmond, 1/4 mile in S plus. Heavy snow in Richmond, light snow in Chesterfield, Petersburg, Williamsburg, light snow in Newport News, moderate at Norfolk, moderate at Virginia Beach, and on the North Carolina side, Roanoke Rapids, North Carolina, light snow. And there you go. Start your radars, everybody.
All right. Well, the radar, the first one that we're starting off with. Normally, I start off with Upton in eastern Long Island, the New York City radar, but really no use to do that because you're not going to see very much on the Upton radar. So I had to change to a different radar, and this is the one from. Let me just move that over here. Philadelphia and Wrightstown, New Jersey, and you can see that even in New Jersey, most of the state is snow-free. You have to go all the way down to Cape May to get any kind of snow. And really, Joe, you talk about a sharp cutoff line. Take a look. I mean, you actually have a bit of green flashing here. That would indicate moderate snow, maybe even moderate to heavy snow at the very south tip of New Jersey. And you don't have to go very far to get into light snow and then no snow. There is no snow falling, for example, in Pomona, which is just outside of Atlantic City, and where the observations for Atlantic City are taken. And again, for the rest of New Jersey, nothing. For eastern and central Pennsylvania, nothing. For northern and central Delaware, I remember the last night I mentioned to a Delaware weather guy. I don't know if it was last night or the night before. I said, "You want snow? I would say anywhere south of Dover." And here is Dover right here. And you can see that's just about where the line is. You have to go south of Dover, and you get this. You see here the thin line of again possibly moderate to heavy snow in the green here, and then you go further back. Well, let's go to another radar. Let's go further south now. Let's go down to Dover, Delaware, and you can see here Dover Air Force Base, Ellendale. You have again the lower part of Delaware. I'd say the lower quarter, and it looks like now as the radar loop moves, that the heavy snows are beginning now to shift to the south and to the east out of Delaware, but still falling across portions of eastern Maryland and especially so down through coastal Virginia, the Virginia Capes, Wallops Island. Wallops Island is where the NASA base is, where they launch sounding rockets, and they often do that at Wallops. Well, they're not launching any rockets now, not with 22 degrees. And again, Joe mentioned snow. It looks like moderate to maybe heavy snow falling down there. Also snowing in places like Virginia Beach and in Norfolk, Virginia. And before all of this is over, said and done, and not until later tonight will that be the case, there'll be some portions of this region down here that will have 8, 10, maybe even close to a foot, 8, 10 inches, maybe close to a foot of snow from all of this activity from the storm, which a little while ago was located, I'd say, about 50 miles south of Wilmington, North Carolina, out and over the ocean. And by the time we get to tomorrow morning, that storm will be somewhere off of the Virginia Capes by about 200 miles, moving east northeast and away from the coast. So that activity is going to be rapidly winding on down later tonight. Here we go from the radar site at Wakefield, Norfolk, Virginia, and you can see flashes of orange here. That's probably heavy snow in the northeastern corner of North Carolina and extreme southeastern Virginia. And again, you see the movement. The movement is basically from west to east, and I'd say give it another couple, 3 hours, and a lot of this heavy-duty stuff will be offshore, out over the ocean, and the snows will end. Virginia Beach has probably picked up about already like 8 or 10 inches of snow. On the CBS Evening News tonight, Maurice Dubois asked a question of their weather presenter. It was not Lonnie Quinn tonight. It was Rob Marciano, who used to work at ABC. And he asked Rob, he said, is this unusual? How unusual is this that they get that much snow in one sitting? Now, if Rob Marciano was watching the Joe and Joe show last night, you may recall that one of our Briller Jeopardy questions was, what is the average amount of snow that falls in the month of February for Virginia Beach? And the answer to that was 2 inches. So if they pick up 10 or 12 inches out of this, when this is all over said and done in Virginia Beach, Rob Marciano could have very easily have said, this is dropping 5 to 6 times more snow than they get at Virginia Beach in a typical February. But he didn't say that. He kind of like danced around and said, well, this is very unusual and blah, 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 blah. But we know it's unusual, but, Maurice was looking for something specific.
Well,
And
they got a season's worth of snow in one, because I think their
in
annual
one
snowfall
sitting,
is 8 inches. They got a season, they're the whole season
yeah.
in one
I mean,
one
like in
shot.
one day, they got a whole month's, a whole February of snow there. But in any case, it is very unusual, most unusual, a very anomalous situation for Virginia Beach, for Norfolk, for anywhere down here. Let me just go a little ways further south. I want to see, they have a radar at Cape Hatteras. What is Cape Hatteras showing? And you can see that at Cape Hatteras now, would this be snow, Joe, you think, or
At
at
Hatteras, let me check to see what the ops is over there. There is some snow in northeastern North Carolina.
right?
Let's see. Hatteras. La 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 la. And Cape Hatteras right now is raining. It's at
Okay,
39, northeast at 14, gusting to 28.
all right. Well, we're kind of asking for a lot to get the snow down that far, and especially right along the coastal plain,
Well,
the
they do
immediate.
have snow in the forecast though for overnight and for the first part of Thursday morning. So
Well, it'd
it
be
may it
cold
may
there.
get cold enough there for some snow. They've already had snow this year from that event back in January.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it seems to be their year. North Carolina, Virginia, Delaware, Maryland, they have certainly had their fair share of snow. And meantime, somebody was pointing out on the chat board that Virginia Beach probably has more snow now than New York has so far for the entire season. New York has just under a foot of snow total. And as I said, while that sounds kind of sad in a way, at least it's not like the last 2 years where they had snowfall only in the single digits. At least this year we made it in the double digits in New York. And again, look at the calendar. We still have about a half a winter to go, at least astronomically, although meteorologically, winter comes to an end a week from this Friday, the 28th of February. And then supposedly, purportedly, on March the 1st, which is a Saturday, we move into meteorological spring. But as we all know, especially in recent years, March has been anything but spring like in this part of the country. So we'll see how spring treats us, meteorological spring treats us this year. Maybe we'll finally see some significant or the substantial snow that all the New York snow weenies have been waiting for coming in March and not necessarily January or February.
All right. So we'll go to the watches and warnings and see what's doing here. We've got winter storm warnings up for the southern parts of the Delmarva Peninsula, all of much of eastern Virginia. Did they put up advisories for further north? Let me just take a look. Yes, they did. They put advisories up for Washington, D.C. and Baltimore. I just want to check to see. Uh, there was a little bit of some. There were some places on the northern edge of the precip earlier today that got into some snow that wasn't supposed to get that far north. But this is for from 7 a.m. to 11 a.m. Oh, so this is for tomorrow morning. And that's with the upper trough. Okay, I got it. So these advisories that are up for Washington D.C. and Baltimore are up because of the upper low that's going to be coming around for tomorrow. Winter storm warnings up in eastern North Carolina, advisories into South Carolina, particularly the eastern portion of South Carolina, advisories in Southwest Virginia. We still have warnings in southern uh, West Virginia and eastern Kentucky, advisories in western North Carolina into a couple of counties here in North Georgia, including mine. And then of course, we have another night of extreme cold warnings from, again, why is South Dakota not in this? This is really bothering me. That why is there this space that they don't have it up there? Um,
Did you
with,
check the technical discussion
no,
from?
I didn't. I didn't have time.
Maybe
Um,
they'd explain
well,
it
it's
there.
two above zero in Pierre, and just checking a couple of temperatures. And Jamestown, North Dakota, is -4. Maybe their criteria is different. I don't know. It's just really bizarre. We've got advisories up through the northern Rockies, a couple of blizzard warnings that are up for ground blizzards, by the way, in northwestern parts of Montana, and some advisories and warnings for the Cascades in Washington and Oregon. Here's your satellite loop. You can see the stream of moisture from the Gulf running up through the Carolinas, the brighter white cloud tops beginning to exit off to the northeast. And then you see the rotation that's back over the Great Lakes. This upper low, and when you look at this, and this is where the models failed, was the fact that when it was showing the big storm, that upper low was basically it was completely and totally involved with this coastal low. The coastal low is running out well ahead of that upper low and the upper air energy associated with it, and that's why we're not seeing. That's one reason why we're not seeing a big storm. The other is that as we've seen all winter and have commented on the fact that the flow in the Atlantic is just as flat as couldn't be. It's west to east. There's nothing that's buckling the flow out there to force a storm to climb up the coast. Uh, that has been the signature pattern for January and for February so far. And I imagine from what I was looking at in the long range, because I think we're going to get a short break and then go back to this pattern we've been in. We're going to go back to the same one. So do not be shocked, folks, if as we get to late February and going into those first couple of weeks of March, that we wind up with another setup like this one. And you're going to be snow weenies are going to be just absolutely apoplectic at that point. Moisture coming into the Pacific Northwest and the Northern Rockies. You see on the radar the wider view, the precip. Yeah, I mean, there's some snow just to just to the south of Cape May, barely touching the southernmost point of Cape May, and then out to the east. And you also can see how the echoes are sliding east northeastward. The darker greens, indicative of some moderate to heavy snow bands. There's one that's running across southern Delaware into Chesapeake Bay and back over into northeastern Virginia, north of Richmond. Then you've got a band that where Richmond has been sitting in, which they have the heavy snow now, in that dark green band that goes down southeast Virginia, Norfolk, Virginia Beach, eastern North Carolina. and there's also some heavier precip as you go a little bit further south. That's when I was looking at the observations. Some of that was freezing rain, and some of that was rain and or mixed precipitation. So all of this sliding out to the east, and then back over the Great Lakes, you can see there's. Remember, this is bitter cold air. I'm not going to check the obs, but it wouldn't be shocked me if some of this snow is actually reaching the ground in parts of Illinois and Indiana. That's going to be moving eastward. The upper low center is going to probably track across southern Pennsylvania, northern Maryland, over southern New Jersey, and that probably means that I think that we could see a little bit of snow tomorrow afternoon into tomorrow evening in eastern Pennsylvania to southern New England. Yeah, there could be a coating. Maybe somebody gets a half an inch. I suppose there's the far outside chance that somebody gets an inch. Upper lows can do very strange things. I just want to put that out there, just in case tomorrow you wind up, some small, some very small geographic spot, maybe a handful of square miles, winds up with a couple of inches. Then you'll know it's because we're dealing with an upper low, because they can surprise sometimes. Northern Rockies, you see areas of snow there, and we've got moisture that's coming in northwestern Washington. WPC going forward, we're going into a bit of a dry patch here. So from Maine down to Florida, except for what's left over here along the immediate coast, this is all front end loaded. We're looking at basically in much of the eastern part of the United States, either less than a tenth of an inch. There are a few pockets of a quarter of an inch or so in western and southwestern New York, again, front end loaded. And also up in north central New York, there's another patch of a half to three quarters there because the lake effect snows have been unbelievable. Some of the pictures that have been coming out from upstate New York, this has been an absolute gangbusters winter up there with regards to total snowfalls. And we've got some heavier precip up in the northern Rockies and into the Pacific Northwest. So this goes out. We get the upper low, maybe again some snow in eastern PA to southern New England, down maybe as far south as Washington, D.C. and Baltimore and Maryland, Delaware during the afternoon and evening tomorrow. And after that, high pressure and moderating temperatures. I think we should warm up rather nicely. We're going to be in the 40s by the time we get to Sunday, Mr. Rayo.
Yes, absolutely. And we're going to be in the low to mid 40s, at the very least, low to mid 40s in the lower Hudson Valley from Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday of next week. By the way, Adam Lowe asked this question, Joe. Can you explain this for the I 95 corridor? Why is it when models predict storms 5 days out, passing just to our south, they trend south, and yet they predict to pass over us or just north, they trend north? And here's Rayo's simple explanation. Not even an explanation. I don't have a
But there
scientific
is
explanation.
no God.
No, no. I mean, what I'm going to say here is this: if you see on a weather map, on a prog chart, 5 days or more out, that a storm is going to pass right through the 40-70 benchmark and give us the perfect setup for a heavy snowfall, which is what this storm looked like it was going to do a week ago or 5 days ago. If you see that, don't believe it, because as Adam just pointed out, probably it's going to end up going slowly to the south and trending more to the east, and we're not going to get much of anything, which is exactly what is going to happen. However, Adam, if you see a storm system tracking, let's say, off of the North Carolina coast, well out to the south and east of our area, 5, 6, 7 days in advance, you look at that and say, yeah, that's not going to do any good for us. Keep that in mind, because those kind of systems, somehow or other, for whatever reason, they're the ones that trend back more to the left or to the west and north. And they're the ones that, with time, although it looks initially like we're not going to get anything, with time, they seem to be the ones that give us something significant. So those are the storms you should be looking at on the long range, in my humble opinion.
Well,
Not the ones we're 5, 6, 7 days out. It's, oh, look at that, it's perfect. We're going to get bombed with heavy snow. Because usually when you see a map 5, 6, 7 days out, it never ever is exactly what is going to happen.
well, and I'll give you another way to look at this, and I'm going to credit Content Weather Guy on Twitter who I follow who pointed this out. Uh, the other reason why the guidance has been so bad with regards to these these storms that have been shown to run up the coast in the long range, is because in the modeling that there's I don't know how much analog information goes into these models. The analogs don't work in this particular instance. They're not recognizing the fact that the Atlantic is as flat as a pancake. If you look
Right.
at water vapor loops, in fact, let's do that. Let's look at a water vapor loop of the Atlantic. So I'm going to do that. We're going to go to let's go to let's see what the mid-level looks like. Mid-level water vapor map, and let's go to the full disk. Uh, hold on, getting there. Take a look at the Atlantic. Look at the on the water vapor, and I'll make this 60 frames, and you can see the problem here. All this is dry air. You see the dry air across the tropics and in the subtropical Atlantic. So there's probably some sort of a flat east-west ridge here. But when you look at the way the clouds are moving, because this is supposed to be a loop, I don't know why they're not moving. Come on, move. There you go. Look at that. Straight west to east. This has been the case the entire winter. There is nothing out there to buckle the flow. Even if you look at that little dry stretch that goes from Maine, look how it's basically almost moving in a straight line all across the entire Atlantic. So until you get a change in that, and as I said earlier, we're going to probably get a bit of a break in the pattern next week, and it's going to happen as the polar vortex, which I believe it really has been the driver the whole winter this year. The polar vortex in the stratosphere, with this stretching back and forth. Well, it's going to roll up. It's going to pull all the way up towards Siberia, and rotate up and around, and then it's going to come back down and stretch again after about March 3rd or 4th. So I think that, and you read Judah Cohen's analysis last night, and
Right.
this is what he was talking about. So we're probably going to be mostly, uh, uh, over the course of the next 30 days, probably near or below average. And we're going to have some above average days in there, obviously, but we're going to revert back to the pattern that we've had. So if everything else remains the same, you're still going to be dealing with a ruler out in the Atlantic as far as the jet stream is concerned. Well, you can see if I can give another look here. Hold on a second. Um, just going to go to the yeah. This is the hemispheric view. I'm going to just go to the North Atlantic view because that'll look better, and you'll see it. So I mean, this is at 384 hours. Look at the you're gonna here's your ruler now. Okay, and then that we're now into next Tuesday. There's something buckles out and goes up up toward Greenland, and then the ruler's going to come back toward the end of the forecast period for the most part. I mean, here it is again. So here's your flow. This is at 15 days from now. If the polar vortex is going to be stretching again, look at the Atlantic. I mean, it's just this. It's the Atlantic version of the fire hose going from west to east. So again, I will say, as I said earlier, if we revert back to the pattern that we've been dealing with virtually this whole winter, don't be shocked if you wind up getting another storm like this one, like the one back in January, and I think there were two others, that's going to take a track across the south and go straight out to the east and pass underneath of the northeast and northern mid-Atlantic states. That's just the way things have. That's just the way things have gone. And once this system goes out, we're going to be quiet here It doesn't even look like we'll get anything that was with respect to precipitation of any consequence for maybe at least 10 days. And there's some kind of low, some kind of diver here that brings some rain and snow in upstate New York at the end of next week, and then another one follows, and then you get colder air to start coming back down. I mean, it's a
Well,
fairly
I mentioned the possibility of a few rain showers on Tuesday,
on
but
Tuesday.
but
Yeah, there's a
a
little front going by.
little front going by, but that's not going to amount to much. And again, even though it is a little front, a cold front, it's not going to do anything in terms of temperature. Temperatures for much of next week are going to be near or above normal. And in fact, Joe, if you switch over to my
I
screen,
did.
I'm
You
sure
did.
you
I
might
did.
have,
Yeah.
and the people over at the Climate Prediction Center agree 100% with what you just said. This is the 6 to 10 day temperature outlook from February 25th through March the 1st. Now you can see much of the Midwest and Ohio Valley and all the way down to northern Florida near normal temperatures. But look, this little swath here covering eastern New England, the southeastern New York, and down through New Jersey and eastern Pennsylvania is in the above normal category. Not really all that much above normal. It's like 33 to 40%, and that actually on the probability or percent chance is leaning above normal. So it's trending toward above normal. So the normal, I know in the lower Hudson Valley now and for next week, is about 42, 43 degrees. So if we're calling for temperatures of about 45 or 46 for much of next week for the lower Hudson Valley, that's 2 or 3 degrees above normal. So that's above, and that's why they have that swath. But does it stay that way as we move into the new month of March? This is through the 1st of March. Now, let's check out the 8 to 14 day outlook, and you will see very quickly from the 27th through the 5th of March, all of a sudden, there's a trend back to below normal. And in fact, I'm not just talking about 33 to 40% trending or leaning above normal. There is a area right here over the Great Lakes into much of Pennsylvania and upstate New York, just north of New York, where that is in the 30 in the 50 to 60% category, likely below normal. So all of a sudden, we have a situation on the 8 to 14 day outlook where it goes from a bit above normal to below normal, and maybe even a case of likely below normal, colder temperatures. So the indication is that sometime around the end of February or the very beginning of March, we're going to see a transition out of the mild temperature pattern that we'll have for much of next week into a colder weather regime, maybe just in time for the first weekend of March. And if you're saying to yourself, "Oh, good, well that's nice. We'll have cold temperatures. What about precipitation?" Well, here's something you can hang your hat on. The folks over at CPC, to go along with that 8 to 14 day cold outlook here in the Northeast, are saying that precipitation will be above normal, a bit above normal, leaning above normal. So maybe, just maybe, we will be teased in that first week of March with another chance for getting some significant snow or maybe some snow. We'll have to wait and see.
Yeah. Not with not with with that ruler in the Atlantic.
Well, I'm not talking about,
I have a better chance of seeing snow than you do.
well, I'm not talking about a 1 to 2 footer, but maybe for a few inches, maybe, or you know what will happen? We'll get what we had last weekend. We'll probably have snow to ice, and that's not nice.
Yes, Helen Bertona hits the tip jar. Thank you for hitting super chat tonight. Just shy of 90 likes, 10 short of 100. So you got time. If you like the show, hit the like button because Joe's dying to ring that bell. And you have Briller Jeopardy tonight?
I don't think I don't think I do. I'm not sure. I thought didn't I have it last night?
Oh, I had it last night.
Did you have it last night?
Yes,
Huh?
countries. It was countries that end in Y.
Oh, that's right. Well, I'm going to check. I don't think I have it, but well, I'll check again. Hang on for one moment. And while I'm looking, I'm going to make you feel old, Joe.
Go ahead.
Ready for this?
Not hard
Well,
to do.
first of all, let me let me just see here if I have Driller Jeopardy or not. Ba-ba-ba-ba-ba. Scott Briller. No, I don't.
Oh, so I took a day off.
Oh, he took a day off.
All right. You got 100 likes, by the way.
We do?
Yes, we do.
Oh, well,
107.
there you go. Ring, 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 ring. 45
Yes.
years ago today, Joe.
What's 45 minus 25 is what? 19, what was that? 1985?
Is it 45?
1980?
No, 40, 46. 46 years ago.
1979. Oh,
Yes.
yeah, the 1979 President's Day storm.
Do you remember that? Well, of course, I know you remember it.
Yeah, no, I remember it because I was with you the night before
That's right. With a dour look on your face, I might add.
with
I mean,
yes.
we had like little light snow,
Yes,
and we were sitting at the
the LFM the LFM right before that event gave I think 0.02 inches of liquid,
yeah.
and I woke up to a foot plus with it snowing at the rate of 5 inches an hour.
I will tell you right now. I used to do a talk. I should resurrect this talk. My worst forecast and my best forecast. And this particular forecast in '79 was one of the worst. The day before, it was Sunday, and I was working at the private weather service in Flushing, where I was for a number of years. And if I recall correctly, that was the morning where up in upstate New York, I forgot what town it was, they had like 52 below
Yeah,
zero.
it was it Old Forge or Saranac Lake, one of the
It might
two.
have been, I think it was Old Forge,
Old Forge.
and a big, frigidly cold high pressure. And we were looking at a storm,
Yeah, it was 54
slowly
below, I think. It's a state record.
yeah, poking its nose out of the Gulf. And I was doing, and at that time, what I was doing was radio, and I was doing a number of radio stations. And the one radio station that stands out was WFBR in Baltimore. And the gentleman who recorded me that Sunday morning was a gentleman by the name of John Elder. And I did the forecast, did the recordings for them, and I went for 2 to 4 inches or 2 to 5 inches of snow for Baltimore. So he comes back and he says to me, "Well, AccuWeather's going 4 to 8." And I said, "Well, John, look at it this way. If we get like 5 or 6 inches, who wins, right? If 4 to 8 is right in the middle of their range, 5 inches is near the top of my range. Who's going to win?" He said, "Well, I just want to let you know that they're going a little bit more than you." And the next morning, when I took the phone call from WFBR and took again it was John Elder who called. I pick up, I say, "Hi, weather," and it's John Elder, and he says, "Well, they just called out the National Guard."
Yeah.
It was they had in Baltimore, they had like 19 or 20 inches, and this is from Rob Friedewitz's site. Rob, which is a fantastic climatologist, doing all kinds of statistical information on weather, specifically for New York, but also for other areas too. And he writes on this day, 1979, fast moving snowstorm on President's Day, dumping 12.7 inches of snow between 4 a.m. and noon at Central Park. The storm's deepest snows fell in Virginia, D.C., Maryland, Delaware, where 18 to 24 inches of snow piled up. Remember, yours truly went for 2 to 5 inches for them the day before. The LFM, the 2-dot LFM, which was the state of the art model back in those days,
And we only had two models, by the way. So,
that we had that, and we had what, the primitive equation, the PE model,
right,
and the bustotropic.
that was it.
And the interesting, when you look back upon this, the LFM showed massive gorilla PVA, a lot of energy associated with an upper low, but they only grinded out like maybe 2 or 3 tenths of an inch of, and if you go by the standard 10 to 1 or even 15 to 1, you're not going to get up more than, let's say, 4, 5, 6 inches of snow. And so I'm looking at this and I'm saying, well, the LFM is calling for only, maybe a few inches, several inches of snow out of this. And, we all believed, looking at that, that's how much moisture this storm was going to produce. Of course, the storm bombed out even more than the LFM had predicted. Of course, tapped into the moisture from off of the Atlantic Ocean. And Joe, I remember it was like 2 o'clock in the morning. I'm trying to get a little sleep in the back room. Andy Gregorio, our mutual friend, who's now up in upstate New York, he did TV for a number of years, I think in the Saratoga Springs area, Albany area. Andy was like plotting sectionals by the hour, and he's yelling. He's saying, "Holy," that kind of thing. And I say, "Andy, what is it? I'm trying to get to sleep." He said, "Raleigh Durham, 5 inches in the last hour," and like crazy. Meanwhile, out the window where we were in Flushing, we were hardly getting anything. A little bit of light snow. And then I remember at like 5 o'clock in the morning, Todd Gross, who was the chief meteorologist and the guy who owned the weather station, the weather office at that time, he wakes me up. He said, "Joe, get up. We got to get. We need you. We have to do extra broadcast." I said, "Why?" He says, "It's a blizzard." And I said, "Yeah, I know, North Carolina." He says, "No, here." I look out the window and it's pouring down snow to beat the band. And as Rob Friedowitz mentioned, between 4 and noon, we dumped 12.7 inches of snow on Central Park. And interestingly, if I were living up here in Putnam Valley, which is 50 miles north of New York and Central Park, we had up here maybe a grand total of 2 or 3 inches, a very sharp
very sharp cutoff.
So
I'm trying to
and
find.
Boston got nothing. Boston got nothing out of this.
Nothing, not a flake, not an ice pellet, nothing.
Nada. But anyway, Joe, 46 years ago, and we both
find a
remember
map of this thing. Yeah, no, there's no if I known, I'd have looked for a map earlier. Sorry, Tom. I've been trying. I know you said you wanted to see a map of this thing. I can't seem to
Wait a
find
minute, I can get it. I can get something here. Give me about 30 seconds. And what did we say? It was February 19th?
79.
1979. All right. Whoops. That's not what I wanted. 1979. And we'll go with 12Z. We'll go with a 12Z map. And go. Boom. And let me do this, do that. Let me go to Zoom, share, and there you go. I think you can see that. There's that high.
Try to make it a little bigger. Try to make it a little bigger.
Let me see if I go here. Zoom.
Okay, now bring it. Yeah, there you go. Perfect. Much better. Much better.
There you go. So there's that huge high which the day before. In fact, I could go to the day before. Let me just go one day back on the 18th.
Yeah, it was like a 1048 high up there. It's been a long time since we've seen a 1048 high up in that position.
1044, actually, according to this analysis. But 1044, there's the storm. It actually wasn't even a storm yet. It was like an inverted trough, pushing into like a finger, pushing into this massively cold high. Remember I said a while ago that a guy I worked with, his name was Dave Solano. He went to Penn State University, a great university if you're going to take meteorology. And I forgot the teacher at Penn State, but he referred to the teacher as the old man. And the teacher used to say, more important than the storm itself, if you want a big snowstorm, is the high. And he would refer to this as the old man's high, the big high. So there you go. That huge high, perfectly placed, by the way, because if you have a developing low pressure system pushing or nosing up from the south in this inverted trough, and this is 12Z or 7 a.m. on Sunday, February 18th, and you can see how quickly from February 18th to the 19th, how quickly we have the development of a storm. Here's that same high now, and from down here to off of the coastline of the Outer Banks of North Carolina is a 10-12. And again, another thing to point out, another thing that I mentioned, you don't need a massive storm. You don't need a major storm. If you've got a massive cold air mass, a big high pressure system, all you need is a modest storm, a modest disturbance to push into that cold air, and you will produce lots and lots of snow,
Well, I
which
mean,
is exactly
eventually it got down to a 973 low when it was offshore.
right. But by that
And
time, it was long gone for us.
yeah, I mean, the snow had ended, but yeah, I mean, eventually it did deepen into a, an animal. In fact,
There
I
you
remember
go,
seeing,
990,
yeah,
994 number one. And then kind of like the high, which was banked up here, kind of slid back around the backside of that storm and then came in to cover most of the eastern seaboard on the day after the big storm, the Tuesday, the 20th of February. But anyway, that's what happened 46 years ago. And Joe, you were there.
I know, so were you. All
Yes.
right, I'm going to bed. I got to catch
Yes.
one episode of Perry, and then I'm going to bed. So,
Okay.
all right, folks, thanks for being here tonight. We'll be here tomorrow night at 7:35 at the usual time. So stay safe. Maybe we'll have some snow on the radar to look at tomorrow night when we're on the air. Keep your fingers crossed. And thanks for those of you who hit super chat and the 123 likes. Nighty night, everybody.
Nighty night, folks.